Builder.ai turns out to be much less about AI than it let on. We're likely to see more of these scandals as the AI market heats up, and why we don't seem to be learning our lesson. So welcome to Dave is Not AI, the channel where we take a critical, no-nonsense look at artificial intelligence, the good and the bad. I'm Dave Linthicum, an author and speaker, and an internationally known AI expert with over 30 years of experience in building AI systems for enterprise. If all of that sounds good to you, make sure to like, subscribe, and join in the discussion in the comments below. Let's get started. So Builder.ai positioned itself as a platform that automates app development, promising customers rapid, low-cost builds driven by proprietary AI and automation. Investigations and leaked testimonies later revealed that much of the actual work was being performed by human engineers and contractors, a contrast that has become the central issue in the scandal. So what this company did is they came out with a very hyped AI solution where they could build applications for you using automated mechanisms that were yet to be unheard of. And obviously, you know, leveraging AI and the ability to leverage AI automation to build systems as quickly and as accurately as you needed them. But when people finally looked into it, they found out that much of the work was being done by human contractors behind the scene. They were using AI, of course, and most developers do. But the idea that this was completely automated by some sort of a special proprietary AI turned out to be false. So we've seen this movie before. Remember Theranos, founded by Elizabeth Holmes? They claimed to revolutionize blood testing with technology requiring just drops of blood. The company, once valued at $9 billion, deceived investors and the public, and its devices never worked as promised. And obviously that was a big Netflix special, and everybody is aware of that case. So investigative journalism exposed the fraud, leading to Theranos' collapse and the criminal charges against Holmes. So the scandal is now a cautionary example of how hype, secrecy, and lack of oversight can lead to massive deceptions in startups. And this, and I believe the Builder.ai case, certainly the Theranos case, came from a fake it until you make it kind of culture that we see out on Silicon Valley. In other words, everybody wants to be part of that startup that breaks into the next generation of technology and obviously creates a tremendous amount of value around it. You have to remember, when you value technology companies, revenue is secondary. You're valued primarily by your ability to provide some sort of a compelling technology and IP in a particular space. And Theranos provided it, or basically said they were going to provide it, and Build.ai did it as well. And so now we have two examples of kind of scams that were run in the tech space. And I think in the AI space, we're going to see many more, probably before the end of the year. So what do these startups that are faking it till they make it to the point of fraud have in common? First, plausibility of the technology claims. You think about it, the Theranos thing wasn't that much of a stretch. They were basically going to do blood tests that were going to be cheaper and use less blood. And so, you know, to me as a, layman in the world of healthcare, that seemed sensible to me. They were making a machine that was going to automate blood tests, which seems, kind of, overly automated in the way in which blood tests occur right now. They take a tremendous amount of blood, typically many vials, and then they provide you the test in terms of cholesterol levels, things like that, other health indicators. And their being able to do it with a drop of blood just seemed like a, something that was plausible. Same thing with Builder.ai. In other words, what they were claiming to do, many believe was going to be, the next steps in AI automation. Obviously, AI is here today. It can generate code. It can generate interfaces. It can generate complete websites. There was no reason not to believe that someone came up with proprietary technology that could automate development, much like we, as the way the CEO put it, ordering pizzas. So the second thing they have in common is that we want to believe. In other words, the general public and technology followers love disruptors. And I think the fact of the matter is that there's a receptive audience out there in the tech community, and perhaps people who listen to this podcast, that automation, technology advancements, certainly the evolution of AI is going to be a foregone conclusion. And we want to believe that these startups are going to have these innovative differentiators in the market. And so we have a tendency to accept them as truths, even though they may not be truths. And we don't ask for proof or claims. We have a tendency to, take someone's word for it, who's doing a PowerPoint presentation at a technology conference. And that's fundamentally going to lead many investors, many people who are going to be employed by these companies, many people who are going to follow these companies to be taken in the fact that they do not have the goods to back up the promises that they're making. So what about Builder.ai? Well, let's dig into the issues. So misleading automation claims were foundational to this. Builder.ai marked its services as AI-driven automation that could replace large parts of traditional software engineering, creating an expectation of machine speed, predictable outputs. And so they said they're going to be able to provide automation that allows you to, in essence, very much like ordering a pizza, define what the application needs to do, and they'll go ahead and build the application for you, including scalability, maintainability, all these sorts of things that are typically engineered into a software system. So evidence showing humans performing core development tasks undermines those claims and raises concerns about deceptive marketing. So the big thing here is not what they claimed was insurmountable. The fact of the matter is they lied to their customers and they lied to many people in the press that they had some sort of proprietary technology that would allow them to build these very complex systems using pure automation. And that just didn't exist. And so they went out to contractors, people who were working behind the scenes, typically overseas, and they engaged human beings to go ahead and build the system. So they were selling these systems as being built through AI automation when that wasn't the case at all. And so that turned into the fraud, which turned into being the scandal of what Builder.ai was all about. So the other issue was hidden human labor costs. So customers were sold on lower prices attributed to automation, but internal and contractor accounts indicate significant hand coding and manual interventions, costs that weren't transparently disclosed. This hidden human labor means customers may have paid for an artificially cheap automated product while the company relied on underpriced human efforts to deliver it. And I suspect in many instances they didn't get the quality and they didn't get the functionality that they wanted the software to have, because there's some things that are lost in translation if you move from a very much a repeatable process that can always deliver a quality product, which AI is capable of doing if it's programmed correctly, into randomly going out to a particular engineer that may have good capabilities or not so good capabilities that build something, I'm sure, where the quality was all over the place. So ethical and disclosure failures were a big part of the issue as well. They didn't disclose what they were doing. So presenting a workflow as an automated when it depends on human work is an ethical lapse that deprives clients of informed consent about how their products are built. Full disclosure about the role of humans versus machines is essential for trust, contracting, and expectations around timelines and quality. So what if not disclosing to the customers that were using this technology or thinking they were using technology that humans weren't in the loop, or humans were in the loop in this case, was a violation of ethics. In other words, if I'm giving my project to someone who's going to build a software system via my requirements, and they're going to tell me that they're going to use AI to automate the process of building the system, then they don't. They use humans to actually build it, human engineers. That's going to be a violation of ethics. That's going to be a violation of my trust. So of course there are quality and scalability implications. If delivery depends heavily on humans rather than reliable automation, consistency and scalability is going to suffer. Outcomes vary by contractor skill and availability. Customers expecting standardized automated builds instead face variable quality, unpredictable lead times, and more frequent post-delivery fixes. So this gets down to the fact that human engineers are good at building software, but some are not as good as others. And so the availability of better engineers over mediocre engineers versus poor engineers, going out to a different quality of individuals who are skilled at building these systems, led to inconsistency in terms of the quality of the software and also the scalability of those systems. And so that ended up being kind of the core of the scandal. If they're, stating they're going to be doing something using AI and they're turning around and doing something by having humans that are behind the scenes who are actually doing the work, that's going to lead to inconsistency. And that's not what the customers were paying for. So we have to consider the labor treatment and subcontractor issues as well. So the reliance on a dispersed network of contractors performing manual work spotlights issues around pay, oversight, and working conditions that were not visible to customers who engaged with Builder.ai. So concealing the human workforce also prevented customers from assessing supply chain risks like turnover, skills gap, and contractor disputes. So the big core thing there, if they're building something for us, we need to know who built the software and where it came from. That's part of the supply chain that we look at when we figure out how the software is going to flow into our core systems, many trust enterprise systems that are going to be critical to the company's success. And so if we can inject problems in the software, things like that, quality issues, and that we're going to have issues with doing that. So we need to know if there are humans in the loop, who's building them, what are they doing with the software, and what are the security concerns or governance concerns we have around them building the software. If we're not using AI and we're using humans, that's going to be an issue. So this gets into a broader industry trust erosion within the AI space. I just see the amount of investment that are being made, certainly in private equity dollars that are out there right now that are investing in the AI space, are going to be incentives for many of these fake it or make it, kind of scams and scandals to show up again, certainly around the promises that AI is making in the world and our ability to deliver on the transformative nature of the technology. So the scandal amplifies skepticism towards startups that brand themselves as AI first without clear evidence of substantial automation and potentially chilling investments and adoption in the low-code and no-code space. So the remedy for the sector is clearer labeling of human versus AI work, transparent pricing that reflects labor inputs and third-party audits for automation claims. So what this means, we have to kind of take a zero trust, kind of approach for how we're dealing with technology out there. So if a company is coming to us and claiming something, claiming that AI is doing a particular role in this product or technology that they're offering, we're going to have to prove it. I think that's where we're coming to. So we can't take anybody's word for it anymore. We're going to have to audit the company, audit their capabilities, look at who's building the systems, how they're being built, kind of see where the donuts are being made, so to speak, so we can figure out if this is something that's going to be right for us as an organization. Investors out there need to be diligent as well. Far too often do they move into these companies or partner up with these companies without critical understanding in terms of what they're actually selling. The Theranos, case was an example of that. So most of the investors who invested money weren't understanding the fact they really didn't have technology that didn't exist. And so it turned out to be a huge loser for them as well. And so obviously, personal investors, employees who work for the company, all those sorts of things are going to be affected by these fraudulent or semi-fraudulent, kinds of scams as well. And so we have to be very wary of the fact that we need to be skeptical of the promises that are being made by AI companies out there, that we're testing them, we're understanding that they actually exist, we're proving the value, and we're going to have to do that each and every time. It's just the world we live in now. So the core issue isn't that humans worked on projects. Human involvement can be appropriate, but that Builder.ai presented heavy human labor as automated capabilities, misleading customers about cost, speed, quality, and risks. So restoring trust requires transparent disclosures, revised contracts, and verifiable proof of the automation capabilities the company claims. And again, this is going to have to be the show me state. We got to, Missouri, we're going to have to, tell us what you're doing, but we're not going to take your word for it. We're going to have to look behind the scenes, audit your company and audit your technology. And by the way, many of them are going to refuse to do that. Proprietary concerns, secrecy, company secrecy, things like that. And that's perfectly fine. I understand why they're doing that. But in those cases, if the company is unwilling to disclose to me how something is working versus just telling me what's happening, telling me we're automating software development when they have other mechanisms in there that we don't understand or know about that can put our systems at risk, then I'm not going to be doing business with them. And you shouldn't either. So what's interesting to me is the number of people and organizations, including the media, investors, and customers that bought the Builder.ai story, hook, line, and sinker. I suspect that we'll see more stories like this as soon as this year. And as investor money flows freely into the AI tech startups and the startups claim to have the best idea around that use AI, some of this is going to be people making things up. Fake it till you make it again. That's a core theme of Silicon Valley, has been for a long period of time. So we need to call most of them out, and I'll call them out on this channel. So if someone has technology I think is suspect, and we are concerned about that, keep coming back to this podcast, coming back to this YouTube channel. I'll name those technologies each and every time. That's what we're here to do. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos on this channel. Also, check out my InfoWorld Cloud Computing blog, my 100+ LinkedIn learning courses, and of course, my generative AI architecture course out on Go Cloud Careers. And finally, my latest book, An Insider's Guide to Cloud Computing. So until next week, stay very, very safe. Later.